UFC Vegas 64. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown brought to you by my bookie. Main event, Amanda Lemos fights Marina Rodriguez. We're going to talk about each matchup on the card. Make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new, subscribe. Turn those post notifications on and make sure to share the video as well. And let's get into fight number one. Ramona Pascual versus Tamires Vidal. I have to ride the Vidal side. She's going to be the pick here. I'm not super impressed by the tape that I've seen from her. Pascual on the opposite side is not super impressive either. But Ramona Pascual, one thing I got to note, very tough and proven girl as far as her durability goes. Vidal seems to be a pretty good Muay Thai style striker, does like to load up on overhand punches, but I do see her overshooting it and at times being a bit predictable, throwing it too often. I see her and Pascual in a fairly competitive striking match. Where I see the advantage for Vidal is on the floor. She has the better Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She is pretty solid at bullying opponents and landing takedowns in that matter, but not like a super effective technical wrestling style. I think Vidal gets the win. I feel like we're probably going 3 rounds. My mindset is if Pascual goes 3 rounds with Josiana Nunes, 3 rounds with Jocelyn Edwards, I think she probably can go 3 with the Tamires Vidal here, who's new to the highest level of the game. Also note, this fight is at bantamweight. Pascual previously fighting at women's featherweight. She's going to have a little bit of a height edge here. Let's see how the weight cut affects her game. I don't think it'll be a big detriment. I do think she was carrying a little extra weight, and that extra 10 pounds off isn't going to be a massive change. So I'm expecting a similar Pascual. I think Vidal is going to be a bit better with her striking as far as landing combinations and power-wise. I do think Pascual will be durable, and Pascual is the girl who makes you look bad. You fight Pascual and you don't put on an impressive performance, but you can probably get a win over her. That's what I'm seeing for Vidal. I'm going to pick her to get the win. I think she'll get it done on the cards. Decision. Not my favorite betting fight. Now, as far as the odds here for this one, Vidal minus 155, Pascual at plus 135. I do like the younger fighter. Also note 10-year age difference. I have to favor the youth here, and I do think Tamires Vidal beats Ramona Pascual in a competitive fight over the 3 rounds to start off the card. Next fight of the night. Jake Hadley fights Carlos Candelario. I think Jake Hadley's going to handle Carlos Candelario fairly well. Now, I will note Hadley's takedown defense is a little bit iffy, but he does have a really good submission game. On the opposite side, Candelario lands takedowns well, but isn't a guy that can do a ton from the top, especially against these higher level guys that are good from the bottom. Also striking, Hadley is so much smoother with his stand-up. He's got a crisp boxing game. And also note Hadley's fighting out of that southpaw stance, as is Candelario. Fun to see southpaw versus southpaw. I think Hadley can definitely touch Candelario up with punches. One thing you have to respect about Candelario, he was game as always, and he's durable. I mean, the Tatsuro Taira fight, he had moments. He ultimately lost to Victor Altamirano, but still got signed to the UFC after that Contender Series defeat. He's a tough out, but one that Hadley, I think, shines fairly well with here. I think definitely outstriking him, winning the grappling exchanges, and taking this fight probably on the cards. I'm feeling like we're going the full 3 rounds here. Hadley definitely has a speed edge with the stand-up and better hands, so he could put a Candelario out, but we haven't seen any durability issues for Carlos Candelario. Never been finished throughout his pro career, and I don't think he's getting finished here. I'm going to pick Jake Hadley to win it on the card. Something I really like about Jake Hadley is that bullying pressure style, and he has good 1-2s. Ultimately, UFC debut, they threw him Rodrigo Nascimento, who looked like an absolute savage and dominated him in that fight. I don't think that same type of thing happens here. Candelario does not have those capabilities. Jake Hadley should get the win. And I still think he's a fun prospect at 26. As far as the odds for this one, Hadley's a big favorite, minus 275. Candelario, plus 235. I am pretty confident that Hadley wins the fight, but I would like to see the line smaller, more like a 2-1. This is nearly 3-1 odds. I like Hadley, though, by a decision, and he definitely has some clear advantages, especially in striking and I think the grappling side of things. Wrestling, I do slightly favor Candelario, but Hadley should get it done. I'll pick him to win this fight on the cards over Carlos Candelario. Next fight of the night, Johnny Munoz Jr. versus Liudvik Sholinian. Man, Liudvik really disappointed me through the Ultimate Fighter. I had high kind of expectation for him. And now he's fighting Johnny Munoz Jr. I'm picking Johnny Munoz Jr. to win. I kind of feel like Liudvik just doesn't have much sting in his punches. I know he has an okay wrestling base, but Johnny Munoz Jr. is way more athletic, has good wrestling skills too, definitely has a better stand-up game, and has more power in his hands, more of a finisher. Sholinian is a guy that I really think needs to outpoint his opponents and for the vast majority of fights win decisions. I think Johnny Munoz Jr. is going to take this one. I'm kind of feeling as though it is going to go the full 3. Sholinian's last fight, I mean, it was not a good performance. It was a clean loss, but Jack Shore and him went the distance. I think Johnny Munoz Jr. also beats Sholinian on the cards. I think he's going to have an advantage with the speed in the stand-up. I think he's going to have the better grappling skill set, like when they get to the ground. Sholinian and him, though, the wrestling is something that I think is going to be an interesting match. I kind of feel like Sholinian might have a little bit better offensive technique with his wrestling, but Munoz Jr. is a better athlete overall and still has decent enough technical skills. I like Johnny Munoz Jr. I'm picking him by a decision. I think he wins here. Liudvik's stand-up game, like, it's okay. He's game. He comes forward to fight. He throws okay straight punches, but he is pretty flat-footed. He's not explosive, and he doesn't have power, and he doesn't really have a lot of muscle on his frame. I kind of feel like he might be better versed to see if maybe he could make 125, because I think he's going to get out-muscled by a lot of dudes at 135. Johnny Munoz Jr. is the pick. As far as the odds, Munoz Jr. minus 190. Liudvik is plus 165. We're riding with Johnny Munoz Jr. to get himself a win here. Let's keep running up the card. Jinh Frey and Polyana Viana. Polyana Viana had such a weird fight with Tabitha Ricci in the last one. I'm picking Jinh Frey. I can't bank on Polyana Viana to win. She accepts bottom position way too much. She's comfortable off the back and has submissions. But Jinh Frey is a really experienced veteran. I don't think she's going to be easy to submit. I think that she definitely won the fight against Vanessa Demopoulos, but lost an unfortunate, controversial decision. I feel like the stand-up game, Frey is tighter with her style and more technical. Viana, I think, has the more powerful and fast kicks, but her boxing style is really awkward. It's very upright, and she's throwing like vast majority of her shots like arm punches, and the chin is super high in the air. I can see Frey touching her up with shots. Frey has a pretty decent Muay Thai striking skill set. I'd say she's quality on the stand-up. She also fights out of the southpaw stance. I could see her landing straight shots on Viana. Viana will kind of switch stances a bit. A lot of the times, though, she's like super square, almost in just like a straight stance right at you. And I think that's going to get her touched up here. And especially just the way she accepts bottom position, you got to go Jinh Frey all day, especially because the lines are really close. I know Frey is also 37. She's over that 35, which is definitely a concern in the women's divisions, especially at women's 115 pounds. But I still think Frey looks pretty competitive and should win. Odds are pick'ems. You got minus 110, minus 110. You could find Frey as an ever so slight underdog at some places at plus 110. But essentially, this is a pick'ems fight. I am riding the Jinh Frey side. I'll say she gets it done by a decision. I do expect this to be an interesting fight. You can't sell me on Viana because the lack of her, I would say the word would be urgency to get back up to her feet. She's comfortable to lay on the back. And I mean, even with Ricci, that fight was so weird. And I feel like if Frey gets top position, I see Viana trying to play jiu-jitsu from the bottom. Whereas in the cage, I would much rather have somebody trying to stand up and fight as opposed to playing that bottom game. It takes like that next level jiu-jitsu skill set to be tapping out these high-level fighters in the UFC. And I don't think Frey is there. I don't think Viana's there. I think Frey's defensive capabilities are there. I'm picking Jinh Frey by decision. Next fight on the card. Mario Bautista and Benito Lopez. Listen, if you guys don't know Benito Lopez, he's a no-joke guy from Team Alpha Male. And he was pretty good on the way up. You know, he was a young kid, but hasn't fought since 2019. What is this? 3 years ago, he beat Vince Morales. Previously to that, Manny Bermudez beat him 3.5 years ago. The UFC run started like almost 5 years ago now, and just a long layoff. He fights Mario Bautista. This is just a really bad matchup to come back for a first fight. I think Batista's wrestling style is going to be a problem. Yes, Benito Lopez is good from range with his kickboxing. He has really good kicks. He's known as a guy that throws like the vast majority of his strikes as kicks, and it works well. I mean, he was chopping at the legs of Morales extremely well in their fight. I like his stand-up, but when you close the gap on him, I do think he struggles. Mario Bautista, very good wrestling, heavy guy from the top position, will search for submissions, definitely has a competent stand-up game, especially enough so to close that gap and use his wrestling. I feel like he's going to really crowd the kicker, press him, take him down, work from the top. I don't think Benito Lopez is going to be ready for a guy like Mario Bautista with this long away from the sport. I do think they could have gave him maybe a little bit of a lighter touch for the first fight back, because I don't think Benito's a bad fighter. He's only 28, still has a ton of time. He's lucky that this layoff was early in the career as opposed to him, taking a layoff from 30 to 33. He's still got time at just 28, but he's not going to win this one. I think Mario Bautista is going to choke him out. I'm picking Bautista to win by submission. I can't bank on the guy that's been out for 3 years. I expect ring rust for sure here. Bautista to win. He's minus 235 is the favorite. Benito Lopez at plus 200. I like that Mario Bautista line. I say he gets it done. 2-1 favorite seems pretty fair here, and I think it should look like that. With Bautista, I'm going to call second round submission for him over Benito Lopez. Fun fight, though. Next fight on the card, Miranda Maverick and Shanna Young 2. Listen, they're not officially calling this one a rematch because their first fight was an exhibition tournament fight over in Invicta, and Miranda Maverick ran her over and submitted her. I expect her to run her over, submit her again. I'm thinking rear naked choke. I don't think this fight is all that close, guys. Miranda Maverick's a huge favorite for good reason. This is actually a rebooking. I remember breaking this fight down, a little while back. I think we're getting the same result. Shanna Young stand up. It's okay at best. It's a little bit sloppy at times, and I see her off balance and out of position. Miranda Maverick is pretty quality on the feet, definitely shines more so on the floor. Very strong and athletic girl. I see her getting top position and strangling Shanna Young. Miranda Maverick, confident pick for the win. And I'm going to show you the lines, and you're going to say, yeah, the bookies totally get it. Minus 650. She's looking like Chimaev out there at minus 650. These are some Chechenian / Dagestan lines. These odds are crazy wide. Shanna Young plus 475. Miranda Maverick gets it done. She should look dominant here. I'm picking her to win. And I'm going to say submission in the first round. I think this fight goes very similar to their first bout. Nothing tells me that things are going to change here. Miranda Maverick, sub. Let's keep running up. Next fight brings us to the featured prelim of the night. I'm interested in this fight. It's Darrick Minner versus Sholinian Nuerdanbieke. I'm going to pick Sholinian Nuerdanbieke. I do think he's going to get the win by knockout. Darrick Minner is a really good submission guy. He's got very good jiu-jitsu on the floor. He starts really fast, too, in fights, but sometimes he can gas himself out and just go a little too crazy for the sub. I feel like Nuerdanbieke is going to be able to compete with the stand-up and actually shine on the feet. He's got power in his hands. I think that he stuns Darrick Minner with punches. I know he's got the wrestling base to fend off Minner's attacks. I feel like Darrick Minner's going to bed here. I'm thinking kind of second round KO. I was actually impressed with Sholinian's last fight when he took on TJ Brown. That was a good performance, man, because I was feeling like TJ Brown might have a bit of a shot there, and he got completely shut down. I think you got to go Sholinian for the win. I think he beats Darrick Minner by KO. Minner's got the solid grappling, but I don't see him on top of Sholinian, and if he does get him down, I don't see it lasting long. I see him gassing and getting stopped in the second round by KO. Sholinian Nuerdanbieke. Say that last name again. Nuerdanbieke. That's a hard last name to pronounce, man. But I'm picking him to win it with some strong confidence here. I'm saying he's going to get the KO over Darrick Minner. As far as the odds for this fight, minus 200 for Nuerdanbieke. Darrick Minner, plus 170. I mean, Minner could somehow rush out crazy fast and maybe lock up a guillotine, some crazy early submission. That's kind of the only way I see him winning. I think he's going to get put out, man. I think Nuerdanbieke is going to sleep him. I think his hands are heavy. He's going to be a problem on the feet. I think he can definitely defend the grappling of Darrick Minner, and I could see Minner gassing and getting knocked out. So we're going to go Sholinian, Nuerdanbieke win. I'm going to say KO in the second round, and Minner might be getting tired. This next fight brings us to the main card. If you guys haven't yet, make sure to smash the hell out of the like button, and if you're new, subscribe. Jailton Almeida versus Maxim Grishin. I'm picking Jailton Almeida confidently, as is probably everybody. I'm saying he's going to win by submission. I'm going to call it first round. Maxim Grishin's not a bad fighter. He's pretty decent with his kickboxing from distance. Tends to be pretty decent at controlling fighters against the cage. He's not super impressive anywhere, though. He doesn't have big sting in the hands. He doesn't have some devastating crow cop high kick. He doesn't have some nasty jiu-jitsu from the bottom and doesn't have elite wrestling. Nothing from him tells me that he's going to beat a Jailton Almeida, who I think is a freak at this point. Jailton Almeida is a monster. And note that this fight is a legit heavyweight matchup. Almeida has incredible jiu-jitsu on the floor, incredible top pressure. He's super long. I think he's developing a pretty dangerous stand-up game, too. He's a tricky guy on the feet. He's really athletic. He's a freak of freaks, and I think on his way to contendership, Jailton Almeida, I'm going to say first-round submission over Maxim Grishin, and I think he's going to prove the lines right here because he's about minus 700. Grishin's sitting at plus 500 as the underdog. This is Jailton Almeida all day. This is a showcase fight. He was supposed to fight Shamil Abdurakhimov, which that would be like a ranked contender at heavyweight to really push him here. Now he gets a veteran light heavyweight who, you know, kind of flip-flops between the weight classes, heavyweight and light heavyweight, who's a decent guy. It's a solid win for Jailton Almeida. It's still a step up in competition. I mean, you look, starting the UFC run, beats Danilo Marquez, then he beats Parker Porter. I think that's a pretty impressive win. And then Anton Trocali, who was undefeated at the time, and he just made him look like he hadn't fought before, hadn't gone to the ground before at least. Jailton Almeida's a killer, man, and he makes you look really bad. I think Maxim Grishin's going to look really bad here, and Almeida's going to look like a contender. I'm picking him for the win. Dominant fashion, devastating fashion, really. It shouldn't be close at all. Next fight on the card, Mark Madsen versus Grant Dawson. I'm going to be picking Grant Dawson because he has more tools than Mark Madsen. When I look at the stand-up games, I think Mark Madsen is a good athlete and is developing okay hands and, you know, a decent striking skill set. Grant Dawson has the better technical hands, the better technical striking overall, better kicks too. He's better on the feet. When you look at the floor, yes, Mark Madsen is an Olympic wrestler. This guy is highest of levels in Greco-Roman wrestling. His clinch is incredible. He's going to be super strong. He's a freak athlete, and that's why he's been able to be, you know, a 12-0 fighter in MMA and getting wins over legit UFC fighters. Grant Dawson is a quality prospect. He's on his way up. Impressive win over Jared Gordon in the last one. I'm not sleeping on Grant Dawson. He definitely has the jiu-jitsu advantage. I'm curious to see how Mark Madsen's wrestling matches the MMA wrestling on the other side with Grant Dawson. I'm picking the MMA wrestling of Grant Dawson for the win. Maybe he surprises Mark Madsen and puts him on his back. I could definitely see Grant Dawson getting Mark Madsen's back, and if he does, I could see him locking up that rear naked choke. Kind of feeling this fight going the distance here. I'll officially say win by decision, but I don't think it's crazy to say Grant Dawson's going to get a sub and maybe throw down on that sub prop. As far as the money line odds here, Grant Dawson's minus 192. Mark Madsen, plus 167. I like Grant Dawson. He's a bit of a favorite, but I think that he's a quality favorite, and it makes sense to pick him in this fight, man. He's got a lot more MMA experience. Yes, Mark Madsen has extremely high-level wrestling, but I'm picking the MMA wrestling and the more well-rounded tool set to get the win. And also note this. Mark Madsen, he is 38. Grant Dawson, 28. 10-year age gap. Madsen starting that MMA career late, obviously because he had, you know, a run in wrestling. Grant Dawson for the win. I think he's going to look pretty good in this fight and be the first guy to beat Mark Madsen. And Grant Dawson's a kid to keep an eye on. He's a good fighter. Next fight on the card, Tagir Ulanbekov and Nate Maness. Listen, Tagir Ulanbekov is the runt of the Dagestani litter, okay? He is the guy that's kind of the, leftovers. The last guy picked when they're doing Dagestani basketball. Tagir Ulanbekov is not going to beat Nate Maness. I think Nate Maness is going to prove a point at 125 pounds. I'm picking against Dagestan here, which you guys know is not a common thing that I do. I'm a big believer in the Dagestani skill set that these guys have. But Tagir Ulanbekov is not that next level guy. When I look at the striking of Nate Maness, it's extremely tricky. He's rangy. He's fast with his hands. He has some sting in his straight shots. Tagir Ulanbekov is decent from distance too. I see it as competitive in the striking department. Ulanbekov does not impress me with his offensive wrestling. He's not this great wrestler. He does have okay takedowns and maybe can take Nate Menes down. I know you're going to look at the last one and say Umar Nurmagomedov ragdolled him. Listen, Umar Nurmagomedov would ragdoll Tagir Ulanbekov too. That was up a weight class. And I think Nate Menes also had a shit performance in that fight. I like Nate Menes. I think he's a very quality fighter. I think 125 is a better weight class for him. He's freakishly tall for this weight class. If he can have an okay weight cut, this is one of the fights that you're definitely going to want to look at the scales, but I do think Nate Menes is not taking a fight at flyweight if he doesn't believe he's making that limit. I mean, he's an experienced veteran, 14-2 record, good sting in the hands. I think he can sting Tagir Ulanbekov here. I feel like we're probably going the full 3, and I can see Nate Menes pulling this one out. He's got a 3-inch height advantage. I think for the most part, he'll be able to fight off the takedowns of Ulanbekov. The last loss was embarrassing against Umar Nurmagomedov. He got controlled bad, but you listen, I think it was a mix of Umar being an absolute stud and Menes having a shit night. I'm picking Nate Menes underdog to get the win. And also note this, he's a southpaw and he's got a stinging straight left. I could see him stinging Tagir Ulanbekov on the chin. Yes, Ulanbekov has good striking, very fundamental with his kickboxing, good straight shots, good kicks from range, but he's pretty upright. Not a ton of movement. I could see a southpaw stinging him down the line and putting him down. I'm going to pick Nate Menes to get it on the cards. I'm thinking like 29-28. Length advantage is a big factor. Power advantage is a big factor. I like Nate's chances here. Now, as far as the odds in this one, Nate Menes, he's sitting at plus 150. Tagir Ulanbekov at minus 175. I'm going to take Nate Menes to beat Tagir here, and I think he's going to get it done. I'm going to say on the cards, I'm going to say 29-28. But Menes might sting him, man. Nate Menes is a good fighter. 14-2. Especially at flyweight. I'm curious to see how he transitions. I think this will be much better for his career if he can comfortably make this weight class. Picking Menes for the win, underdog over Team Dagestan, which is a rarity for me. Next fight, Josh Parisian and Chase Sherman. Yeah, we're going to see two heavyweights bang. I think both these guys are going to scrap on the feet. I will say, if somebody's going to look to get it to the floor, it's going to be Parisian. And if he gets on top, he could control that position. Chase Sherman has always struggled a bit with grappling. Still, I'll tell you guys, I'm picking Chase Sherman to get the win in this fight. I do think he can box up Josh Parisian. I feel like he can fend off the takedown attempts. I think they're going to scrap in the center. I think it's going to be a bit of a war. I think this could, be like the sleeper fight of the night. This is old school. This is going to remind me of like 2005 MMA. Heavyweights, big boys, not the most skilled guys in the world, but guys that can scrap throwing down. Chase Sherman, I'm going to pick him to get the 3rd round TKO. I see it as a competitive back and forth. I see him consistently pressing forward. Parisian meeting him for the most part, but just getting outstruck, worn down. And I see Chase Sherman landing a big combination in that 3rd round. Kind of similar to maybe what he did against Jared Vandera. I could see that same type of result here. Sherman's got sneaky fast hands in close range. He throws like awkward combinations. He's got his own unique flow. I mean, you got to give the guy some respect. At one point, he held the BKFC belt. That's still a pretty solid accolade. He was up there. I'm saying that he's going to beat Josh Parisian, man. I think that he can win the fight. I'm picking Chase Sherman. As far as the odds for this matchup, Chase Sherman sitting around minus 110. Josh Parisian, the same, minus 110. I'm telling you guys, we got another pick'ems. We got a lot of pick'ems fights on this card. Another one, pick'ems matchup. I'm going to pick Chase Sherman to win. I do think he can close that gap on Josh Parisian. Parisian has decent kicks, but fighting a guy about the same height as him, a guy that has got some quick enough abilities to close the gap. I think he closes distance fairly quick enough at least for heavyweight. I think he's going to touch up Josh Parisian and eventually put him out. I'm picking the vanilla gorilla Chase Sherman to beat Josh Parisian in this fight. Fun matchup though. I think we're going to get a good one. Co-main event of the evening. Neil Magny versus Daniel Rodriguez. Ooh, this is a good fight. I'm picking Daniel Rodriguez to beat Neil Magny. He's got more pop in the punches. I think he's going to close that gap on Neil. I know both guys are 35, so that age thing doesn't really apply here. But one thing that I am going to note, there's a lot more miles on Neil Magny. He lost a dominant beating against Shavkat Rakhmonov. The momentum's crashed for him. Let's be honest, he won a controversial decision, semi-controversial at the least, against Max Griffin previously before that. Daniel Rodriguez, yeah, people can say he lost to Leach. It was a competitive fight. I get the people being against him there. Ultimately, he's on a 4-fight win streak. All the momentum is straight in his favor. I think he can close the gap on Neil Magny, touch him up with big punches. He's a southpaw with some sting in his hands. I know he's not a big knockout artist, but he does have the ability to sleep fighters. I do think he could hurt Neil Magny. We've seen Neil Magny only knocked out a couple of times. He's not known as chinny. I think Daniel Rodriguez can hurt him. I don't think he follows up and gets the finish. I think Rodriguez win by a decision here is a pretty likely method of victory, man. I like the southpaw stance. I like the straight left. Magny being as tall as he is, he fights fairly well from distance, but isn't great at closing that range. Sometimes really likes to work that clinch against the cage, and he is pretty decent at controlling from there. I don't see it against Daniel Rodriguez. Magny doesn't have much sting on his strikes. He's more of a volume striker. Not that Daniel Rodriguez is Mr. One-Touch KO, but he's got enough sting in the punches that I could see him hurting a Neil Magny, especially a well-timed straight shot down the line from that southpaw stance. Daniel Rodriguez, I say he gets it. Decision here. I'm kind of thinking it might be 30-27, him winning every round, but 29-28 wouldn't be too crazy. Daniel Rodriguez, I think this win right here, it's a signature one. It's going to get him really in the mix as far as 170 goes. I got to go with the momentum of Rodriguez, and I like the striking. I think he beats Neil. As far as the odds, Rodriguez is ever so slight an underdog, -101. You can find him at +104. It's pick'ems. Neil Magny, other side, -120, but essentially he's even line too, -105 at the low end. This is a pick'ems fight too. Back-to-back pick'ems. I'm riding with Daniel Rodriguez for the win. I like the striking. I think he can touch Neil Magny with hard shots. I think he can land the straight lefts. Neil is not super athletic, not super quick, and I feel like he's going to take an L here. I got to go momentum, Daniel Rodriguez, to get the win over Neil Magny. Pretty good fight, though. I'm interested in it. Main event of the evening, Marina Rodriguez versus Amanda Lemos. If you guys haven't yet, make sure to smash the hell out of the like button. If you're new, subscribe to the channel. This fight gets me very excited. The pick is going to be Marina Rodriguez. I'll tell you guys right out the gate. We're going to preview the past few for Marina Rodriguez. She had a very close fight, split decision loss to Carla Esparza. Listen, if Esparza's at the top, that rematch is on the horizon because right now, Rodriguez is on a tear. 4 fights in a row. Amanda Hebros, she was impressive, dominating her, beating her up. Michelle Waterson, clean win. Beats up Mackenzie Dernabit. Dern had a few moments, but clean win for Rodriguez. Now, this one, Yan Xiaonan, iffy decision, but she definitely won the 3rd round, finished strong. Maybe in a 5-round fight, it would be more clear. She gets it done on the cards. Amanda Lemos on the opposite side was on an absolute tear, gets the knockout of Liviana Souza, beats Montserrat Ruiz badly, 1 shot. Granted, a little early stoppage, but it was impressive as hell. Angela Hill, split decision. That was a real toss-up. That's a concern, and this is kind of why I'm picking against her. That 3rd round, she seemed to be slowing a bit. This is 5 rounds. She loses to Andrade submission, but I was feeling like she was winning the striking exchanges early. And then the last one beats Michelle Waterson, chokes her out, guillotine. But she did have a little bit of trouble in that 1st round. I think Rodriguez is more well-rounded, especially with the wrestling department. Not that she's going to be shooting takedowns. She never does. But I could see her tripping Lemos later in the fight as they're fatigued. I could see Rodriguez in the top position here. Lemos has like a pretty good sniper striking style. I do think Rodriguez is a little bit better in close range. She has better boxing, I feel, especially when she's in tight, better combination punches, good hooks. I like the 5-round experience. Let's note, Lemos has never been past the 3 rounds. That's a factor. And to me, she looked like she was getting a little bit tired in that 3rd round with Angela Hill. I'm curious to see how 5 rounds looks. I think it could spell a lot of trouble for her here. Big right hand with Lemos. She does have a lot of power. She's a tricky girl to deal with, as is Rodriguez. I see it as a real competitive fight throughout the first 2. I think even Lemos may be taking the first 2. 3, 4 is where I see things changing. I'm kind of seeing TKO. I could see a tired Lemos getting caught with big combinations, kind of like with Rodriguez touching up Yan Xiaonan late. Combos like that in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. I could see Rodriguez putting her out. I'm going Marina Rodriguez win. I'm going to say 4th or 5th round KO, TKO. A decision wouldn't shock me, though. But I'm kind of feeling like we're getting a finish at the Apex. I don't know. I feel good momentum heading into this card. Good action coming. I think Lemos is going to want that win, and she's going to bring it. And she'll go out on her shield if she has to. I think we have a fantastic main event, and this fight card is actually going to deliver a lot. I know a lot of people are a little bit underwhelmed with it, but I'm telling you, I really feel as though the fights will deliver, especially this main event. Now, as far as the odds for this fight, Marina Rodriguez, -205, Amanda Lemos, +175. I like the favorite, Marina Rodriguez, to get the win. And I think she beats the very game Amanda Lemos. Late stoppage, 3rd, 4th, 5th round. I'll officially throw it at 4th or 5th round KO TKO. So championship rounds, which will be the ultimate test for Amanda Lemos. Pretty good card, guys. I'm excited for it. I will be live throughout the entire thing, so make sure you guys tune in to the Fight Companion. Keep it locked in on the channel. Got tons of content dropping throughout the week. Make sure you guys smash that like button if you haven't. If you're new, subscribe. Turn those post notifications on and make sure to share the video as well. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. What are your picks? What do you think of my picks? Who's your guys' favorite pick of the week? We'll be getting into locks and dogs on this week's Best MMA Bets on Wednesday, so make sure you tune into that show because we're killing it as far as the lock of the week and the dog of the week have been for the past 2 weeks, and I'm planning on keeping that momentum going. Much love, my people. Thank you all so much, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace, everyone.